I know in the past, usually I had a white towel for this sort of thing, but I found a brown towel instead. Well, light brown, so it kind of looks white. I don't know. In any case, we're actually starting today off with an unboxing of this. Who Shot Johnny Rock? And this is actually still sealed from the looks of it. I mean, this looks like factory sealing, but I could be wrong. So, I have absolutely no idea what to expect from this, short of the fact that I know that it's sort of like a gun shooter game, except obviously since it's on the PC, you'd use a mouse. And $1? Whoever carried this last in store was really desperate to get rid of this. Or, hang on. You can actually faintly see a 5 on the sticker that's underneath that. So, it was reduced to $1 from $5. Oh, we're in for a treat, aren't we? What's on the spine here? System requirements. Yeah. Well, at least it's a DOS game. Okay, so I can't play this until it's out of the box, so let's actually open this sucker. Oh, well, that didn't go so well there. A $1 game. I wonder how much it would be worth now. I haven't actually looked yet. Come on. Trying to do this through the viewfinder is difficult, because it's hard to see in front of me right now. Okay. Actually sounds like there's a lot of stuff in here, so we're gonna find out. So, okay, so it's got one of these split inserts. Oh wow, that doesn't actually come out. In fact, if you take a very close look at here, in order to get the CD out, you have to open it from the bottom. Who designed this box? You have to open it from the bottom to get the CD out? What kind of bad packaging is that? Oh, let's see what else comes out of here. Because now that we've opened both sides, that is crazy. This piece right here doesn't come out, and it keeps the CD from coming out. Okay then. Well, apparently we've got the game right here. Hopefully in pristine condition. Oh, it looks pretty... What? What? What kind of quality is this? Look at this. Okay, you've got the manual here. Nice, colorful front page. It's black and white inside, but you do have a manual. That's nice. The manual fits inside the jewel case. Sort of. It misses the top pegs. It misses the top pegs. What if I put it... Okay, if I put it in this way... Actually, it's still... It barely... This isn't sized properly to the CD case. What kind of quality are we looking at here? Is the CD good at least? CD looks good at least, so hopefully it actually works. What else did they include in this thing? Oh. So this looks like a collection of whatever other games they had. Oh god. I actually know what Crime Patrol is. If this is from the same people who made Crime Patrol, we're in trouble. Oh my goodness. Oh. Take it all in, folks. This is gonna be one heck of a game. And extended warranty registration. Price paid, I love... Yeah, I should send this in. Price paid, $1. This... Let's just play this thing.
I never was very lucky until I met Johnny Rock. And now someone's even taken him away from me. The cops have closed the file on this one, and that's why I need you.
Okay, so let's clarify something here. Today's Ancient DOS game was not originally a DOS game. It started life as an arcade game back in the early 90s. It works on a similar principle to Dragon's Lair, an arcade game from the 80s that looked more like a cartoon than a game. The way to accomplish this was by storing all the full motion video on a LaserDisc, using the game's CPU simply to control the state of the game, show data overlays, and to send seek commands to whatever LaserDisc player they put in the arcade cabinet. For those unfamiliar with LaserDiscs, they're basically the precursor to CDs, using virtually identical technology, but being roughly the size of vinyl records and able to store far more data than a CD could. So this kind of begs the question, how did they fit all the video data from the LaserDisc onto a CD when CDs only have a fraction of the storage space? Answer, lots and lots of video compression. The video quality in this release of the game is atrocious compared to the original LaserDisc release, to the point where it's actually legitimately impossible to see what's going on in certain circumstances. Even the copyright at the very start of the game is barely legible. But as far as the game itself is concerned, it's a shooting gallery game. You have a gun, you shoot stuff. It's coupled with cheesy B-movie style acting and a surprising amount of depth considering the kind of hardware this was originally running on. And considering you can beat it in about 15 minutes if you play it perfectly. Plus, it has multiple endings depending on which character in the game is randomly selected to be the murderer. It's interesting for sure, but there are some technical issues with this release in particular, and we'll get into those as well.
Private club.
What's the password?
I showed him my 38.
Okay, glad that you'll never leave this place the way you came in.
Who Shot Johnny Rock was created and released by a company known as American Laser Games, responsible for making all kinds of LaserDisc-based arcade games using gun-based mechanics. And although this one came out in 1991, they didn't release any ports of it until 1994, when systems like the Sega CD and the 3DO were out on the market, making home releases of their games more viable, despite the reduction in video quality necessary. Is a one-player shooting gallery game with support for VGA 320x200 256 color graphics and Sound Blaster sound. Now, I know the box says 1 or 2 players on it, but this is a flat-out lie with this particular port, although there is a 2-player version of the game out there. From what I understand, the 2-player version is mostly just competitive for points, but there are certain scenes which can be triggered in the 2-player mode, which can have 2 bad guys to shoot simultaneously, with those scenes being nearly impossible to clear with just a single player. As for its current release date, it's still commercial and very easy to find copies of, ranging anywhere from $5 to $20 depending on which platform you get it for and the condition it's in, with fully boxed DOS copies tending to be a little more expensive than the others. I should point out, too, that you'll occasionally find copies designed to work with all DVD players. Now, DVD playback intrinsically has the basic functions necessary for doing interactive games of this nature, which is why you often find these kinds of games which state that they work on any DVD player. However, since this was originally a gun-based arcade game, the DVD versions resort to fixed aiming points, which you select between using the arrow buttons on your DVD remote, appearing as a large crosshair on screen, while the DOS version just uses the mouse.
There's someone to see you, boss.
As soon as I saw her, I knew she was...
The premise of the game is that a popular singer by the name of Johnny Rock has been murdered, but with so many potential leads, none of which really went anywhere, the cops decided to drop the case. Fed up with this, Johnny's girlfriend, known only as Red, hires a private investigator to find out who killed him and bring him to justice. And that PI is you. Now, right off the bat, I want to quickly elaborate on the video and audio quality. I've watched footage taken from the actual LaserDisc for this game, and it is silky smooth and exactly the high level of quality you would expect from a LaserDisc. Here, the compression artifacts are intense, and the frame rate's been dropped to a mere 10. The lower frame rate, reduced resolution, and severe compression actually make this game a lot harder to play because it's so much harder to tell what's going on in some situations, with intended targets sometimes being completely obscured by all of these factors. Unfortunately, we're talking about a DOS game, not an arcade game, and this port does take a bit of this into consideration, allowing players to continue an unlimited number of times from where they left off if they lose all of their money, allowing for a single game to be saved at a time, and it also allows players to choose their difficulty level, although I think the arcade version may have had players select a difficulty too. I'm not entirely certain. In any case, the higher difficulty settings add some more generic scenes into the mix to lengthen the game, reduces the wait time between each individual bad guy to shoot in certain scenes, and also tightens how quickly you have to shoot someone for it to count, up to the point where the instant their gun fires, you die. I've also noticed different money and ammo counts on footage I've seen of the arcade version, so that one may have settings for that, or just be different by default compared to the DOS version. Something you might also find weird at first when playing this game is that there's a strange disconnect between the on-screen video and the stats at the bottom. For instance, when you fire your gun, when doing so it wouldn't normally do anything, such as at a blank space on the map or when looking at something important, you still lose ammo. This ties in with the fact that the arcade game hardware has no way of knowing what's actually on screen at any point in time. All the CPU can do is track its own game state and send seek commands to the LaserDisc player based on that. So it assumes at all times that the gun is active and can lose ammo. So let's immediately address one thing that's unique about this game, in that there's no extra lives. Instead, your money is your life. And there's a couple ways to gain money, the most obvious being to clear scenes, the other being a method I'll address in a moment. You'll lose money whenever you get shot and need to go to the hospital, plus you also lose money if you shoot an innocent bystander, the in-game reason being that you have to pay for their funeral, which you then subsequently watch, although these funeral scenes are not specific to specific bystanders, they're just generic. Making a mistake costs you $400 in this port of the game, thus if you have less than that when you die or kill a bystander, it's game over. You can also use money to buy extra ammo, but the game gives you so many bullets to start with that this will only become a factor if you manage to avoid using continues. One of the random factors the game throws into the mix right from the start is a lucky number. This mechanic is used to earn more money outside of clearing scenes. Whenever you exit a scene, there's a chance your secretary will call you up and tell you to go to a specific location. When you do, each time you shoot your lucky number, you'll get additional money. So the trick is to just burn as much ammo into your lucky number as you can when you spot it. Actually, speaking of visiting locations, there's a bunch of them on the map, and their locations are even random to a degree. Now, you never actually need to return to the office, as far as I can tell, and going to Johnny's mansion right from the start will just result in an insta-death. The ammo store gets you more ammo, and the other 4 locations are the places where you can find the 4 different suspects in the murder, who will then proceed to try and have you killed, but once you defeat their goons, they'll give you a clue. Going to any location you've previously cleared or is otherwise not accessible will result in you being instantly killed, often with a lot of laughter in the process. Now, something I should probably address with how this game works is that you're theoretically using a Tommy gun in this game, but it functions in an odd way. You have automatic fire for up to 6 rounds in a row. Once you've fired your 6th shot, the gun won't fire again until you let go of the fire button, at which point you'll immediately reload for another 6 shots in a row. Now, since the game doesn't show you how many shots you've fired since reloading, it's very easy to lose track. Not to mention there's no method to reload without burning through these shots. And one way around this is just click rapidly instead of holding the fire button down, but holding the button down is often more reliable given the poor frame rate. This also leads into a fairly annoying bug with this DOS port. Now, for any of you familiar with the game, you may have noticed some scenes missing by now. Well, they're there, and I have watched them in here, so I know they're there. The trouble is that this DOS port doesn't have any means of delaying the detection of gunshots for sections where you don't have to shoot. And chances are when you click the mouse button, even if you're only intending to fire a single bullet, you'll likely end up firing twice due to the low frame rate and how it's detecting the mouse button. Combine these 2 issues together, and you end up skipping scenes the instant they would normally start because of the extra shots fired. I'm fairly certain the arcade version actually has a delay in place so that scenes where you don't need to shoot won't advance from a gunshot until at least a second into them, thus allowing the player time to stop holding the gun trigger. Or it may simply be it won't advance such scenes unless the gun trigger goes from an unheld to held state. Either way, that's why scenes are getting unintentionally skipped here. But despite that, the game cleverly cuts between different live-action segments, making for a slightly or mostly random experience in many of the different scenes. So while it's possible to memorize some of what you have to do to win, you'll always need to rely at least a little on split-second reactions. And I feel that adds a lot of staying power to the game, given its otherwise very linear nature. The way the clues work is also pretty nifty. The player has complete control over which order they, quote, interrogate the suspects in, and get the clues. But the clues are simply objects in a particular room of Johnny's mansion. To survive that final part of the game, you not only need to memorize which clues you receive, but you also have to remember the order you got them in, since if you shoot them out of order in the mansion, you'll lose a life. Now when you shoot them in the mansion, they again give you numbers to memorize in order, which you then have to shoot on a safe, and this moment slightly confused me at first because I didn't know exactly what it wanted me to shoot. It turns out you literally shoot the numbers, not the dial or the handle. And once you open the safe in Johnny's mansion, you'll be given a clue about who double-crossed Johnny and had him murdered, at which point you'll go to that location for one final confrontation, though you'll be given some generic scenes to go through first. The final confrontation scenes are designed to be difficult, with very fast reactions required, and wait a minute, that was one of the two-player scenes. But I'm only playing one player, so how the heck am I supposed to get past that one? So yeah, this game's kinda buggy. Right now, for instance, it's throwing a two-player only scene at me, where both players are supposed to get their shots off near simultaneously in order to succeed. If only one guy gets shot, the other shoots you. I did eventually clear this specific moment, but given how tight the timing is, how far apart the targets are, and the fact this is playing at only 10 frames per second, not 60 like the original footage, you have to get super lucky to clear this as a single player. You may have also noticed the border there for a moment. The game is pretty good about seeking to appropriate moments in the footage, yet despite being a computer game now, not a LaserDisc, it's still seeking in much the same way the LaserDisc would, and sometimes it doesn't quite do it right. When this happens, the game freaks out and starts decompressing the wrong data as if it were video data, resulting in that. The game will sometimes recover from this when it happens, but I've also seen this crash DOS box, so bear in mind that the game's got some stability issues. The last thing I want to point out is that whoever was responsible for converting the bounty boxes from the arcade version to this DOS version didn't do a great job of it. Some of the bounty boxes are way smaller than they're supposed to be, sometimes being only a few pixels wide or tall, and some of them aren't even in the right spot. Plus, there's inconsistencies between whether you should shoot someone in the head or chest, with some bad guys only responding to one or the other and not both, though most of them are sized to cover both the head and chest. In fact, there's a few bounty boxes which are actually too big, making it way easier to hit a couple of the bad guys than it should be.
A clean operation, just a little dynamite.
I wasn't a cop any more than he ran a clean operation.
Overall, this is a terrible port of an otherwise decent arcade game. At least for the time. I get that they were pushing the limits of what they could do with a CD when they ported this, but it's inferior in so many ways to the arcade original that I can't even fathom trying to play through this port without using continues. I mean, geez, even the high score system is missing from this DOS port, so what's even the point? As for the live action content itself, it's super cheesy, which I'm pretty sure is what they were going for, given the other FMV gun games they made. So if that's your kind of thing, I would suggest picking up a DVD port. You won't get the same thrill of the light gun gameplay, but you'll at least get to watch the FMV at its full level of quality. As for any of the CD-based ports, I would say only pick them up if you want to collect them, because the ports really do suffer from their technical issues and poor video quality. To run this game in DOSBox, you'll probably want to set cycles to max, plus you'll also want to make an ISO of the original CD and image mount that in DOSBox to cut out the seek times. Which, now that I think about it, the really fast seek times might be part of the reason I was getting those screen-shattering glitches. In any case, you'll also want to make sure you set this double-speed CD-ROM option in the setup program for the game, otherwise the video quality will be reduced even further, as if it wasn't bad enough already. Anywho, that's all for today's episode of Ancient DOS Games. I already did 3 episodes this month, so episode 219 will be on Saturday, August 5th. and we'll be taking a look at a game where the main character uses a shotgun. Yeah, that doesn't really narrow it down all that well, does it? Well, as a bonus hint, the main character can fire it one-handed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure firing a shotgun with one hand wouldn't go so well in real life. But hey, if you think you know of a game with a character who can magically do that without shattering their wrists, then be sure to send your guess to adg@pixelships.com. And stay tuned to see just how well such a game plays out. Thanks for watching, everyone, and special thanks to everyone supporting me on Patreon. Here's a small random set of you guys.